Thank you, Carl. And it goes without saying that any great success is only as good as the plan. And this was Carl's idea to, and with his organization. But also, I think BT has some honor in the Startup Exchange, and the show that is about to begin has a lot to do with the way that MIT listens to its constituency. It's a little bit unusual, I think, in the university context that we are as responsive as that. But the Startup Exchange is only 2 years old, and it originated because we had a strategic review where we asked our member companies, and we have the industry liaison program. What are you looking for from the university relationship? And it turns out that the connection with some of the spin-out activity is so important. So even as large companies like BT and Steve, who works with us very closely, in fact, he's embedded in the Media Lab in one of our labs, which is so important to us. When a unified group of those members say that we really are so interested in these startup relationships, can you not do more to facilitate that kind of interaction, then we respond right away. So that's what we've done. Over the last 2 years, we have built a structure where it turns out we have 1,100 startups that we can work with. So in our portfolio, there are 1,100 startups that they didn't all start last year. And in an MIT context, startups take longer than the proverbial Silicon Valley startup that starts on a napkin and goes to NASDAQ in 2 years. Some of them actually take up to 10 years. So we allow them to stay in our kind of active management portfolio for 10 years. That means there's a lot of variety in there in terms of stage. But I speak with these entrepreneurs every day, and many of them come to me, and it's not a surprising conversation to hear. First of all, our company was sleeping for 3 years because of all kinds of reasons. I was a professor, or no one really believed in it. And then suddenly, but yesterday someone invested 4 million. And now we have all these clients, So there are all of these stories that makes you very humble to be representing and helping entrepreneurs. But also the industry connection is really the unique glue that I think you'll see throughout the day. It's starting to become a trend here in the UK as well to work very closely between startups and industry. I had the great privilege just outside the room here to talk to Digital Catapult and also with some of the UK government guys that are working on technology relationships. And I think there's some other partners we might be working with in the future. But in any case, the unique thing that Startup Exchange is doing is truly working mostly on how startups and industry can very, very early start working together on a multitude of partnerships. And it turns out that is both to the startups and I think to industry so much more important to start working together than to work out the commercial relationships, which of course naturally follow. But so much of the debates on helping startups or on corporates trying to look innovative start with the money question and some very complicated legal issues. We have found that all of those sort themselves out if you start in the other end. So in any case, I just want to give you a sense of the environment we work with. So 1,100 startups, 230 of the largest companies that you have heard of, but also many companies that you have not heard of at all. We work with a company like Corporación America, which surprisingly to many people probably here in Europe, they own something like 57 airports, including many of them here, both in northern and southern Europe. They own like 8 airports in Italy. So we work with a lot of companies that are very, very large conglomerates in their local economies, and we help them tap into the innovation ecosystem in the US and abroad. We have one faculty member here today to just exemplify really why this makes a lot of sense for us as a university. We have 3,000 faculty members at MIT. Over 200 of them are serial co-founders of startups. And I make a distinction between an entrepreneur and a co-founder just because for you it's important. If you have in a UK audience, the way that the model works at MIT is mostly that the professors stay on, and Dimitris, who will speak to us later, will explain that. But they might take a sabbatical to get their startup off the ground, but typically they want to found startups in a serial basis, and they let their PhD students, or if they're lucky enough to have connections that can immediately jump on to be a CEO, that's how it typically works. So that way they can continue their university work, and they take somewhat of a smaller role in the startup and not an operational role, but they stay on as advisors and board members and what have you. And we work very, very closely with those people. The fortunate thing, of course, for us is that those are the same professors that already were, some of them, working with industry already. So I think it's no coincidence that if you are already working with industry, you're also thinking about commercializing your technology. So there's all a logic to this. These are people that want to meet each other and talk to each other. And lastly, we made a decision somewhat controversially initially to say, well, we are also going to be working very, very closely with our alumni population. And I'm proud to say that today this event and some of the speakers you'll meet are indeed a result of that. And in fact, coming to London, we uncovered several startups that had not heard of our new program. And I think that is one wonderful example of how an event can be catalytic. Because if you ask me why we are here, it's not to make you people in the audience cross out on a 5 or something for this event when you go out. We want to make some lasting big changes, and we want you to be able to say, we came out of this event and got some really new ideas, we started some really good partnerships, and of course you had a good day. So anyway, that's what the day's about. Here's just an example of how we work with industry. So if you are a large company, you simply fill out this little template, talk to us, and then you are in motion. And the challenge is not finding exciting startups. It's never been a challenge. There are so many, whether you have a limited pool like us of 1,100, or you start with the whole world and you're trying to find exciting startups, that's never the problem. The problem is to know what you're looking for and why, and then the real work starts afterwards. A demo day where you like this, where you see companies for 10 minutes, is only the beginning of the process. All of the hard work starts afterwards. And that's where I think we are starting to excel in figuring out how you actually sustain and build relationships, and some of them take years to form. Just lastly, what are these startups working on? The key areas at MIT are perhaps known to many of you, but I know in the UK, and this will be part of the discussion throughout the day, the AI discussion is very much center stage, and you guys have a wonderful environment here in London and in Cambridge and in other highly technical universities around the country for that kind of debate. But so do we, and I think that will be part of the day's debate, and certainly analytics will, because this is an event about enterprise IT, I guess. We have a lot of robotics work, which is, I guess, an application of AI into something that I think MIT is really good at, which is combining hardware and software and different technology areas into one and have it work in an application. We have a lot of energy work. There's a massive amount of work going on in healthcare and life science and in and around MIT with a large hospital ecosystem and many multinational life science companies that bring their stuff to Cambridge, Cambridge. And then lastly, manufacturing, and finally, both in materials and in actually nanotechnology, we're doing a major push. So with that, I'm going to skip straight to this, which is we're very proud this fall we have launched an actual accelerator program. So today, some of the startups represent that new program. They are a selection out of the 1,100 startups. There's 25 of them. The inaugural cohort only now numbers in 9. So we are growing this to 25. These are truly the most amazing companies that other actors on campus have nominated to us. You can't apply to the program. You have to be tapped on the shoulders. It's a very, very select group, and we're very proud to have some of those presenting today. Not to say that the others aren't excellent as well. I mean, some of them actually just preceded the program, so this is very, very new, and you have to be kind of fresh off the boat to be part of the program. Now to today's agenda. So we have promised to talk about technology and analytics and new experiences, because this is not just about technology, it's about changing the experiences that we have where the technology takes much background stage. Enterprise IT has been pretty boring for a few decades, right? That is about to change in a very drastic way, as I think is consumer IT. And some of the changes have to do with the next three terms that we will be talking about today: automation, but also security. Because with all of this IoT stuff floating around, you might have noticed that even your toasters can become attack weapons. And that is indeed a very important part of today's discussion. And it's not just a warning, but it is just an illustration of when IT gets cool, or when IT gets deeply, deeply embedded, we can't forget that it's still there and indeed can act in society in fairly surprising ways, and we'll hear more about it. And then lastly, on the AI and machine learning angle, I think machine learning is very much becoming the platform technology for this next wave of innovation, both in consumer and in enterprise. And we'll be talking about that more today. All right, without further ado, I will now introduce our first speaker. We're very, very happy to have Paula Bryan here from BT. He is the Director of Research and Technology at BT. He has worked for 29 years in telco. He has university degrees here from the UK. And I think what he will be talking about is BT's unique approach to innovation, open innovation. And we'll hear a little bit about some of your exciting future labs, where you also feature startups quite effectively. I'm very excited to welcome you to stage.